Well, I say if it's not on the calendar, it's probably not happening. So even down to like walkthroughs, phone calls, it's all on the calendar. Like I need to
Mhm.
stop and make this phone call, or I need to connect with this student at lunch, or I need to be at this common planning at this time. Like those things are embedded on the calendar. But again, we all well organized days can be debunked, just like you said, where and then I think it's just being as transparent and communicative as you can with, hey, I'm sorry that I missed you. I really valued our time. Let's connect and put something else on the calendar so that we can get it there. Because by no means am I perfect. And there's often times where things have to be rescheduled due to an emergency or something that has come up that you just have to take care of within that moment. But being honest and open with people, I think is important. And then if they knew and you communicated that, then they're a little bit more understanding.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the Hot Conversations with School Leaders podcast. Super excited today. I feel like I say that all the time because for all the interviews, but it has been good in many cases for me to reconnect with individuals that I may not have been able to see in a little bit. This is another person who have a lot of history with. We met at St. Christopher School and we did summer camps together with students coming from the city of Richmond in there. This is an individual who I will tell you always has good vibes, like always has good vibes. Every time I see her, every time I talk to her, she's always smiling. I enjoyed working with her at St. Chris, and we have both kind of moved up the chain of teaching and assistant principal and then the principal. So it's always cool to look back. We got kids now, and so we got gray hair now. I don't know if you have any gray hair now, but I got plenty of gray hair now. Um, but this individual is an incredible leader. She loves people. She loves kids. She loves her daughter. We'll get into all of that, but we have with us the amazing Miss Danielle Sims. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much, Matt. It's really great to be here. I'm really honored to be someone that is part of this journey of hot conversations, and it's been great to even have this opportunity to be here today. So thank you so much.
Yep. And so for all y'all to know, we've been trying to get this together probably for the last couple of weeks. So I am very excited for this one. Because nothing's going to keep us from talking and getting into your backstory and everything that's gotten you to be a leader in the education space. So just remind everybody, remember, HOT stands for honest, open, and transparent. And that's what we want to be. I feel like in this role, sometimes we don't get to hear what it's like to be a school leader and also to be a mother, to be a father, to be a son, to be a daughter, to be all of the different things that come along with that. So for anybody who's just coming into the space, for anybody who's thinking about becoming a leader, none of this is to scare you as much as it is to say you can do it. It's just you need to make sure you are dividing your time, focusing, prioritizing, um, and it can be done. You can be successful being a school leader and a person. So, Ms. Sims, can you tell us a little bit about your educational journey, how you've gotten to the place you are now?
Yes, so I was raised down in Newport News, went to Warwick High School, and then decided to join VCU, got into VCU Go Rams, and been in Richmond ever since. While I was there, I was working on my master's and education, and got to go to all over to like different counties in the area and get into schools and just it just warmed my heart and knew that I was in the right place to say the least, right? And then after VCU, I got into teaching. I taught for 10 years in Henrico County. I taught fourth grade for 5. I taught second for 5. And then I was like, okay, what's next for me? Where is my journey going to take me? So I started dabbling into leadership opportunities and then went to University of Richmond and got my master's certificate in leadership, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Met a lot of great leaders from all over Virginia. And then from there started the next chapter of leaning into administration. So I was a resource teacher for a couple of years at
Mm.
Ward Elementary. then went to Colonial Trail as an associate principal during the pandemic. So that was interesting, meeting an entire new staff through a screen. I'm kind of having flashbacks right now.
Mm.
And then this is my second year as a principal at the amazing Mayberry Elementary. So that that's been my journey into where I am right now.
So we will definitely get into the COVID leadership because I have trauma from COVID leadership as well. I think any of us who led during that time, we've got something. I'm gonna jump into this first. So I've been a middle school administrator my whole time. I taught middle school, so sixth graders are kind of like the elementary school. Eighth graders are kind of they're ready for high school. Seventh grade, you can just get whatever. Whatever happens during the day is what happens. Well, be honest with you. I am scared of elementary school. Like
Oh,
that it scares the mess out of me. I feel like I can deal with the high schoolers. I can deal with elementary. My wife, or excuse me, middle. My wife has worked elementary. So like what excites you or got you into elementary life?
honestly, growing up, my parents, we were a foster family, so we took in a lot of different kids, learned from a lot of different backgrounds, different cultures, and they were always young, and it just that was kind of like we were giving back to so many kiddos in need. And then I was trying to determine, hey, how can I give back? Education was my way to give back to more students and in a different way, right? So the youngers always warmed my heart the most because they just have so much energy and they have a thirst for learning and they're just so excited to um just everyday things. It could just be like, oh my gosh, there's pizza today, but it could be something just that they're going through, and you take the time to talk with them and get to understand their needs and help them build who they are. So I think that's what gets me most excited about being in education in general, is just helping kids figure out their journey, what their next chapter is going to be, where they want to go, inspiring them of who they are. And I've had so many great conversations with kids and stay in touch with students of just how they're progressing through their journey. And I think that's very impactful of just how they've started and where they're
Mm.
going. So
So
there's
then
that.
how, how do you prepare them? So like we're all in Virginia. So we've
Hmm.
got the literacy things that have been pushed. I know elementary was for lack of a better term, hit really hard. From the middle school side, we had some things that we had to do, but
Hmm.
we still got a year to kind of get some things in. Elementary, it seemed like you guys got hit with everything immediately.
Yes.
Um, Elementary is different because in middle school, I can be just a social studies teacher. Like
Hmm.
that's it. That's all I got to do. Elementary, y'all teach everything. So you have the babies in some cases, and correct me if I'm wrong, the whole day.
Yeah.
You've got recess, y'all making sure kids are getting on the buses and making sure that I'm staying at school till every kid has gotten where they're supposed to be. Sometimes middle school, high school, that's not me. Once we got you on the bus, it's kind of like, all right, we see you later. So as an elementary school principal, what is that life like for you? Like, what are the things you see that's different there than maybe from a middle and a high school administrator?
Well, we have to build their stamina because we are in one space at one time. You did speak on just the updates from like the Virginia Literacy Act and things that are coming down. That's been a lot for teachers, as yes, they've gone to training and they're building their understanding of a new curriculum, but it's also teaching it alongside students learning it for the first time. So we have to put our trust in it, but also using our own professional judgment to making sure that the students are getting what they need and pivoting when we need to and understanding the expectations. So we're staying within those parameters, but also making sure kids are getting everything that they need to show success. Reading is huge. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
that block of a day is not like middle school or high school. Reading is about 2 hours of learning. So it could
Okay.
be whole group and then going into small group. It can include the phonics component. So there's that. But then you also have your schedule could be stacked where you're moving through different subjects. So creating those transitions, creating
Mhm.
that movement, creating that learner center community where all students know that they're safe to learn, they're comfortable to learn, and build that community within the classroom. But Mayberry takes very, very big pride in making sure that everyone feels comfortable. So we take a lot of time building that foundation piece of just letting students know it's okay to make a mistake, or letting
Yeah.
students know that you can ask questions, or like understanding the process of learning and getting them to understand all that. You don't have to get it right on the first try. We're all here, and there's a wide gamut of learners within a space. So
Right.
it could be students that are far advanced. It could be students that are multilingual and still learning the English language. It could be students that are just are right down the middle, and we're just trying to figure out how to keep them excited and eager and ready to go, while also having others that may need additional services to support them along the way with instructional assistants and case managers and such in the room. So it's a lot of partnership, it's a lot of moving parts, which I
Hmm.
think is what makes it exciting as well, because they're all learning from each other. And I think having a variety of different learners in one space is a beautiful thing, because students all learn from each other, how they're processing, how they're interacting with one another. All of that, I think, makes it a, a wonderful elementary land that you don't need to be scared for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was about to say that's why you would be a great mentor for me, because I would need that I would need that optimism. Um, I I'm just scared that sometimes in the middle school there and it would make sense, right? In the middle school and high school, there are conversations you feel like you can have
Hmm.
with students that and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong in this. I always say I couldn't have with an elementary school, student. But is that true? Like, is it just you could have it just in a different way, maybe?
I think it's in a different way. You just have to bring, depending on the level of the student, and you need to know who you're talking to, know your audience. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
some kids are a little bit more mature, others aren't. And you just have to have, I think, all in all, it's a softer approach. I would say just making sure that you're reaching kids, but finding how to relate to them to get them to understand if there's a concern, or if you're trying to push them in a different way. That's all.
So how do you? So we talked about VLA, and we talked about COVID.
Hmm.
So one of the things that in our talks before we even had this interview, just you've talked a lot about how you support your staff, right? Like just
Hmm.
trying to make sure that they feel supported, making sure they feel valued. So I'll come from two different angles. With the new things that have come down the pike, and if you're in public education, there's always something new that's come down the pike. Like, how
Hmm.
do you support your staff so they don't feel overwhelmed and burnt out? They feel like coming every day, and even if the work is hard, because we know the work is hard, they want to come
Right.
um, because they want to help the kids, but they also know they got your support. How do you help them every day and support them?
So it's kind of twofold. This year is a bit of an anomaly from other years just because of the amount of new. We got new math standards, we got a new reading program, we have a new
Yep.
intervention program, a new math intervention. All those things are just kind of like a perfect storm. So what I try to lean into is make simple great. And
Mhm.
what can we do
I
each
like that.
day to make sure that we're focused on what students need, and we can't, heal the whole elephant. Like, we got to take it one piece at a time when we are working through all of this. So I gave them an opportunity to really dive into our new reading curriculum, and then created opportunities to meet with our reading specialists. So one-on-one data meetings to help them individualize and group for the students that they're serving. Also creating common planning time with the specialist who is in that curriculum all day, every day, who understands interventions and oversees all that. And then we always collaborate on all of those things. Um, Partnering with resources within the county. I invited in the math specialist for our county to deep dive the new standards. The last time they really did a deep dive was over the summer. And, we got through the hump of just getting comfortable with the reading. We didn't want to lose our focus on math. So creating that opportunity to really peel back the layers and giving school related leave, like we're going to do during the day while students are here, but we can get substitutes in to support the learning for the students while you're also getting the professional learning that you need in the same time. Because let's be honest, professional learning opportunities are, few and far between unless we try to
Yeah.
get creative to create to develop that opportunity. So it really just comes down to just honest conversations, trying to meet with teams every week just to do a check-in, every day, checking in on different staff just to make sure through walkthroughs and observations, and finding a way to give them feedback. Our administrative team, we all aligned ourselves with the reading specialist from the county and did walkthroughs into rooms to make sure, like, hey, this is not about you all right now. We're trying to learn the program, and just
Okay.
being transparent about what we're looking at and then giving feedback on what we saw and what we were focused on. And then they knew we were coming, and that's also important, just to be transparent so they can put their best foot forward as we're trying to prepare ourselves as well of how to better serve them as they are on the front line doing, that hard work every day. So just trying to find that even balance. And honestly, I'm an open door. Anybody has any questions or needs anything, I'm always, and my door is always open, and I'm always touching base with people around campus. If I'm in my office, it's not because I wanted to be. I usually have a meeting or something. If not, I'm usually out and about supporting students and staff throughout the day. So that's something that I take pride in, is just making sure that I'm supporting them as much as I can.
So I'm gonna give you to give me some coaching. So just hearing all that you're saying right now, and again, if you're a principal in any school, you know that your day can be like at the drop of a hat. You could have everything planned, calendars ready. I know I'm going to this person for this observation. I got this meeting. I'm gonna be at lunch with some kids. I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna do all different things. And at the drop of a hat, something can happen and
Mm.
just kind of wipe all of that out, and just listening to all the things that you are doing to support your folks. Like, how do you organize your day? Because it seems like your day needs to be like very organized in order to get to what you need to get to and be supportive of your staff and your kids.
Right. Well, I say if it's not on the calendar, it's probably not happening. So,
Okay.
even down to like walkthroughs, phone calls, it's all on the calendar. Like, I need
Okay.
to stop and make this phone call, or I need to um, connect with this student at lunch, or I need to be at this common planning at this time. Like, those things are embedded on the calendar. But again, we all well organized days can be debunked, just like you said, where, and then I think it's just being as transparent and communicative as you can with, hey, I'm sorry that I missed you. I really valued our time. Let's connect and put something else on the calendar so that we can get it there. Because by no means am I perfect. And there's often times where things have to be rescheduled due to an emergency or something that has come up that you just have to take care of within that moment. But being honest and open with people, I think is important. And then if they knew and you communicated that, then they're a little bit more understanding. I try not to reschedule formals because those take a long time to coordinate, and you do a pre-meeting and all of that. And so I try to shelter that as much as possible. But other things can be a little bit more fluid, but that's just the nature of the job sometimes. But just trying to be honest with everyone so that I'm respecting their time.
So let's go back to I because when you were going through your leadership journey, you hit it, and I said we're gonna get back to it, and that's that COVID time frame. So when our talks, your leadership or your move into the principalship was during COVID, and then you said like what you met your staff online and you were
For
zooming.
my
How'd that go?
Yeah, so associate principalship was it. I interviewed online, got the job online, and we
Okay.
all went out. So we went out in March. I interviewed that summer and then got the job and met the staff over the summer as I was coming on, getting onboarded as an associate principal. And by that time, everybody was at home. So that we started making intentional opportunities to connect with staff and things of that sort, where it was just, that was a whole nother experience that we all had to learn. But trying to be on a screen and introducing yourself and gauging people's personalities and figuring out how to support, that was another whole process to learn with that. Yeah.
So then what is an associate principal for everybody? And I know that can change by state, that can change by
Mm.
place, but so you're in Henrico. So what's an associate principal in Henrico?
So an associate principal is like the second in command to the principal in the
Okay.
elementary world, and then the third in command is now called the student support teacher versus, and
Okay.
they're still an administrator, but they're student support teacher. It used to be called resource teacher, again changing the names. But like in middle school and high school, you have one principal, one associate principal, but you could have many assistant principals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but in elementary, you only just have one principal and one associate.
Gotcha. So now, from an elementary school perspective too, and I feel like, again, you correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like parents are way more involved at the elementary level. They're involved at the middle school level too, and I think they're involved at the high school level because now you're talking about GPAs, You're talking about
Mm.
sports. You're talking about diplomas,
Graduation.
all those graduation, right? So they're very involved in that. Obviously, they want kids to go to college and get involved in some different things. Like, how do you support and value your parents? Because it seems like they definitely want to be involved in what's going on. Elementary school, I think it's underrated how many events you all have. Because I think you all, we talk about all the things we do at the secondary level. I think elementary has a ton of events as
Hmm.
well. So how do you manage that piece as well of supporting parents and at the same time being able to say, hey, we're trying to help your child grow and, through the
Right.
process?
Well, at Mayberry, where I am currently the principal, we have a very, very supportive PTA, and parents are very involved, from volunteers to how can we support to resources to donations. I mean, it's truly a blessing. It's not that way everywhere, but at the same time, every parent is always trying to find ways to support their child. You just have to figure out what their bandwidth is, I guess, or what their capabilities, because we don't want to interfere with, job, working and all that kind of stuff, as some parents may have more than one. It's just trying to figure out opportunities for them to be able to come in, even if it's just chaperoning a field trip or a grade level performance. But I've got like a overwhelmingly supportive PTA. I've not ever experienced this before, but I mean, we've got at least like 20 subcommittees within
Oh,
of just
wow.
parents that are just very involved and take the lead on different events and coordinate things that are happening around our school each year. But I connect with each of those subcommittees to see how we're doing and supporting and making sure that it all aligns with our school vision and where we want to go, and then give them some parameters, and then they take off.
So
um
then, can I actually just jump in there? Because it
yeah.
still brings me back to like it's kind of mind-boggling to me, like how your day is there. So like you have multiple subcommittees that
Hmm.
you're working with the PTSA or PTA. You
Hmm.
have obviously students, right? And again, elementary, you're going from kindergarten to fifth grade.
Yes, well,
Am I
we have
right?
pre-K as well.
So you got pre-K to fifth grade, which is bigger than the middle and high. We don't have that many grade levels. You have way
Hmm.
more grade levels. You have all of your teachers, and now you got teachers at those grade levels. Outside of PTA, you got your parents. Like, I don't walk us through your calendar. I know I've asked that already, but it's just the more you keep saying it, I'm like, because I work with my PTA and we got an awesome PTA. But like I have kind of like a person in my building who kind of works with them, and then I kind of get
Hmm.
what I need, and we go from there. So just hearing you go through everything, I'm like, how is she doing that on a regular basis, 5 days a
Yeah.
week?
Well, and even though there's 20, they don't all pop up at the same time, like when it comes
Okay,
to like PTA subcommittees. So there's like people that could be on our fall festival. They would call it Maybury.
okay,
And then there's things that are happening in the winter to support. There's also an auction that is done. So I mean, as the seasons come through or different events come up, I would touch base, but I keep in close connect with the PTA president, and we meet once a
okay,
month. And they have their board meeting, and then her and I connect afterwards. And then because of the subcommittees, I touch base with the subcommittees as things start arriving. Like we just had an international night, so I touch base with them on what they need and how I can be the liaison to what like custodians could have set up or things like that, when it comes to like the event and what is needed, or how we can get volunteers and get the teacher liaison to help support with getting staff to volunteer and
okay.
support. So it's almost just like air traffic control, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, there's check-ins with everybody just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Sometimes I get different people with different ideas, and maybe they need to be honed in, or hey, if you want to go bigger, feel free, let's go for it, or how can I partner with you on that? But it's more of just making sure that we're all aligned and on the same page, and that it's all for the kids in the school. That's the main piece. So
Okay. So we've now talked about school. How do you balance? And I've heard some people say there is no such thing as balance. It's just focus. It's just this is what I'm focusing on at this time. and then this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm focusing on at this time. How do you, because again, and I will say this not just because you're on here, you're a great mother, right? Like,
Oh,
so you take care of your daughter. You are going to put her first. You're going to make sure she has everything she needs. How do you balance, in a lot of ways, not, you're not parenting, but
yeah.
you're supporting all of these kids and adults, and then you've got your daughter who definitely needs you and wants to be around you. Like, how do you, for lack of a better term, balance or focus on both of those?
Yeah, I think it's about boundaries. I think is important. I shelter time for her events, and oftentimes before I came into this role, it's like you better go to it now because you won't be able to do it when you're a principal. And I just didn't like the way that settled with me,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
I take off time when I need to be a chaperone on a field trip or to go see like she was recently in a Shark Tank thing at her school
I
because
remember you
she's
told
not
me
at
that.
my
Yeah,
school. She needs her space and I need mine. But and I get asked that often because she's 11, so she's about to head off into middle school. So have to be asking you lots of questions
yeah,
here
yeah,
soon,
yeah.
right?
Right.
But it's just trying to figure out how to not miss those memorable moments. And then like when it comes to weekends, I often hear people, I work, work, work. Well, I try to balance it, right? Where there I do things if it's usually later in the evening or shelter a certain time of day on my weekend. So I'm not taking the whole weekend or not taking every night. Um, because I mean it is a balance and I don't think we ever get it down completely. But
Right.
there's times where my family knows, okay, look, we are at the end of a quarter. I've got report cards to be looking at. I've got, parent conferences that are getting set up and that I'm going to be later. And you just coordinate. Takes a village with my partner and then Savannah and then family. We kind of all lean on each other to make it happen. But I think it's about balance. I actually had a staff member come up to me and they said, I appreciate that you are not like here super early and you come in like I mean I come in between 7:15 and 7:30. School starts at
Mhm.
7:45. I know some
Okay.
people need more of a runway of time, but I want to make sure that I see my daughter off in the morning. She's an earlier school and then I'm a later school. So I just make sure that I set her up for success before I head into my day. Now there's some days, don't get me wrong, where I had to schedule a meeting and I'm there at 7 or earlier or whatever. But most of the time I try to make sure that we can both start our day off well and then schedule my time to get there at a reasonable time. And then in the evenings, I do tend to stay later, but she also is in an after school program where I know that she's active and mingling with other people, and I feel
Gotcha.
comfortable with that. But it also gives me parameters to, well, you better be done by this time because you got to pick her up
Mhm.
on time. And then I spend the rest of my evening with her. So I try to wrap it up at the end of the day, what I need to before going home, unless there's like pockets of unfinished things. But there's always a to-do list. You just have
There's
to figure
always a
out when
to-do
you're going
list.
to hit the pause button and then just again being transparent. Didn't get to that last night, but I'm on it today. I'll finish it up and circle back with
Yeah.
you. Just that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, being transparent, like I, it's encouraging to hear you say that because it took me a while to get to that point. I can be like super focused.
Mm.
And I think early in admin, my dad used to always say, love is spelled Time, right? And so I would
Mhm.
always, I could tell you that I loved my wife and my kids, but if you looked
Mhm.
at my time was like I was up early working on school stuff, late working on school stuff. I'm at the building. And I remember one time my daughter like saying one of them made the comment of, "Dad, are you going into the building today?" or something like that. But the way it was
Mhm.
said, it was like because I always go. And then
Yeah.
one of my favorite things that was ever said from my kids was, "Hey, Dad, I'm proud of you." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
It's like it's because we can see you're trying to make sure you put stuff away when you're at home and you're not
Mhm.
going to the building as much. And it does sometimes cause more work, right?
It
Because
does.
like, hey, I gotta put this down, but you
Mhm.
feel better, right? You just
Yeah.
feel better. Especially when you know you're working. Like it's not like I'm putting this down because I'm lazy or I just
Right.
don't care. I'm putting it
Yeah.
down because, like you said, this is my priority. You both
Yep.
are. And then we go from there. So that's really encouraging to hear you bring that up.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's just important to find that balance. And then sometimes there's a season where it's a little bit busier, and then other times it's not. I mean, before we even I went into this like profession of just like, okay, I'm going to pursue administration. But even applying for a principalship is a really big deal. We had to have a
Yeah.
family conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when you're a building principal, everything lands on you. So if somebody else isn't able to do it or it didn't get done, like, who's supposed to do that? That's us,
Yeah.
right? So having that conversation with the family, like, this is probably one of the toughest things I'm ever going to, experience, especially in the beginning. I'm only in year 2. I know you've got your feet wet and you're in a better groove and probably space than I am, but
Mhm.
um I told them I'm going to need a few years and it's going to be some struggle. And there's going to be times where I'm going to be, just again, just being transparent with them, not even just like with my staff. It's understanding that my family knows there's going to be times where, things could be difficult or whatnot. But I love you, but I got to focus on this right for this moment. And then,
Yeah.
then sheltering time and being as present as I can when I can.
So then that's encouraging. So anyone who's listening to this, as you are getting in, and maybe this is the group that's just getting into being an administrator, do give yourself that grace.
Hmm.
That you do need some years. Like I remember I heard somebody say one time, I'm a better principal now than at a school I'm at now than I was at a previous school. And I was a better principal at that school than I was at the other. You just start to learn the
Hmm.
landmines not to step on. You know the things that it doesn't matter how hard you work, it's
Yep.
just not going to happen right now. So you're just going to have to either let it go
Yep.
and and I also think you start to learn how to ask for help. Like
Yes.
I will reach out to people in a heartbeat and be like, "Hey man, this is a program that's coming out. How'd you like it? What did you do? How it didn't work? Okay, we won't use it, or we're going to. Can you send somebody from your school to help us? So that way we just are not tripping over things just for the sake of saying we figured it out on our own. So
Yes.
what are things that you could give to seasoned veterans or just young, I don't say young, but individuals who are just getting into the administrative field, especially elementary? What are some things that you'd be like, hey, think about these things as you get into it?
I mean, the main thing is the time commitment, time, be making sure that you understand that it is a big time commitment. It is different than associate in a resource position. I feel like when I when you're in those positions right behind the principalship, you're like, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm doing a lot, or I'm already at the table and I'm having those conversations. And when they're out, I'm handling it. Everything seems okay. But when you're living it day in and day out, that is a different world. And it just being flexible and you have to be able to just go with the flow because I mean, as much as I could set my calendar, it might just have to move to the next day
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it could be debunked by one thing, one
Yep.
landmine, as you would say, that just popped up and you didn't know it was there, and here we are. Um, Trying to stay organized, figuring out a routine with taking care of you, taking care of your family, but also figuring out like, okay, I might work late this day, or I'm going to shelter my weekends and do some things on this time or that, but just the ins and outs. And also, like you said, giving grace because it all takes time and I'm learning more and more about the role every day. As much as you think the VDOE would change it again or
In a
whatever it
heartbeat.
could be, right? So you just have to be able to roll with whatever comes your way and figure out how you're going to boost the people around you at the same time. I think delegating is a learned practice. Um, I You could think that you're the best delegator until you're in this role and you're like, wow, I thought I was good at delegating, but maybe I need to learn a little bit more, or trying to figure out how to be very clear in your communication or what your expectations are. Um, Oftentimes we don't like to say the word non-negotiable, but sometimes they're needed, and you just have to make sure that you understand who you are so that when you're able to present to others of what you're doing, it's all aligned, I guess is the biggest thing there. So it takes time, but I think that's the fun of the job, honestly, is you
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know what tomorrow entails. You never know what curveballs are coming your way. And I kind of like that fast pace, never know what to expect. But I also like when there's the calm before the next wave of whatever's coming, of where you're just seeing the systems and routines that have been put into place, and the little trinkets or pockets of fun and excitement that we have as a staff or with students. I think that all is why we do what we do, just to see the growth and the gains and everyone smiling. It gets harder with the season that we're in right now, with all the changes of trying to keep people lifted. Morale is a big thing, and I think if you're going to the table, you're going to get asked that question. And
Yeah.
like how if you're thinking about it, and then
Yeah.
if you're living in it, you're literally talking to your friends at other schools saying, what are you guys doing, and trying to grab, beg, borrow, and steal to figure out how to keep morale up, because we are in the season with all the new of just trying to keep everybody lifted, because it is a hard job. And we're trying to be employee friendly, but we're also making sure that students are getting what they need. So,
So, and one more question before we jump into kind of our kind of lightning round of
uh
some
oh.
things, but yeah, yeah, they're good though. They're not hard. Um, what do you do for you, right? Like, so we've talked about you and your family, and we've talked
Yeah.
about you and the school, but what does Danielle do for Danielle to say, like, this is what I do to recharge? I heard somebody say one time, there's a difference between tired and burnt out, right? He was like, if
Mm,
you're tired, then you can just go take a nap, right? Take a
yep.
nap and you're good to go. So when you're burnt out, then you need to be recharged, and no nap is going to do that. So it
Mm,
may be that you need to go to a conference. It may be that you
wonderful.
go spend some time with some friends and get recharged. And that way,
Yep.
so like, what did you do to
Yeah, so I would say it's a little balance between a few things. Like I just in my first year of principalship, I didn't take care of myself
recharge?
physically as much as I'd like to. So this year I got through the the first half of the year, and I said, okay, now I'm going to dip and dabble in getting into a gym. And I picked one where I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I just show up and they made the plan, because we make a lot of decisions all day long.
Yep.
I
Nope.
can't create that workout plan. So there's that. And that's nice. And I made a little goal to try to go, 3 times a week. Nothing too
Mhm.
crazy. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't, but grace is important. I went to a conference last summer that was like the fire within the profession, that I just really, it was exciting to be around a bunch of different leaders and to just learn, hear from people that I've read books from
Mm.
all the time. But it was like, wow, now I'm seeing you in person, and you're bringing the same fire right here that I get from reading your book. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. I'm currently about to so Henrico County is really interested in next education workforce. Not sure if you've heard of
Mm-hmm.
that, but
Yep.
I'm myself and two staff. We're about to head out to Arizona State, and we're
Okay.
going to be observing in two different elementary schools of how they are utilizing that, and then figuring out, it's not like a turnkey program. It's like a practice that you can implement that works best for you and your school. So I started that as an ASP with the school that I was previously at, and then they continued on their journey. Well, when I got into my new role as a principal, there were little pockets of things that I really wanted to try. We dabbled in it a little bit this year, and now we are like, okay, we've done some tenets of that, and now it's like, ooh, let's see if we can dive into it a little bit more and get a better understanding. So I heard staff say, well, we've never been offered an opportunity like that before. And I'm like, hey, we got to learn and grow. Let's see what we can do. So I've encouraged them to go to conferences or get micro credentials or whatnot, or um, tap other people like I was tapped, right? Because, there's a lot of
Yeah.
wonderful leaders within our building that just need to know it. And we just haven't told them enough.
Yeah.
And then for me, like Friday nights are non-negotiable. I'm not doing anything on a Friday night. So when I come home, like when I'm not
Shut down.
cleaning, we're not cooking, like we're definitely getting something in and just spending time with my family and sheltering that. So it just, having our own little, things that we do together that are just fun. So school things that get you excited, home things that, okay, what are we going to do? Let's try to do one thing this weekend fun. So or sometimes it could be more. And it's like we
Yeah.
need a rest.
Yeah, every
uh,
time I see you, you all look like y'all are having a blast every
yeah.
time, and that's good. I appreciate that you document that, because sometimes you don't realize how much you are encouraging someone else,
Mm,
but then they look at your picture and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." All right, we can go do something. We can have some fun, or it helps you remember that you did do something fun, right? Like it was
Right.
like, oh, okay, we did have a good time this weekend. So
And it
yeah,
doesn't
that's
take
awesome.
every time. It doesn't take a lot of time to do it, right? Sometimes it's
Right,
just a short little pocket and then you can, get back on the grind if you need to or not. But
right.
it's just like, let's shelter some time and do something together because time, like you said, is important.
Time is important. All right, so we got three questions. We'll make
Okay.
them quick. First one, and you kind of alluded to it because you were talking about books. What is a book that you feel like has impacted you as an educational leader? It can be instructionally, it could be just leadership in general, but what's one book that you'd be like, hey, this is a book you should pick up and read?
Oh man, that's hard. Just one book. Whew.
Everybody says that, like just one. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Oh man, that's gonna be hard to just pick. Um, one that was really powerful to me was Dare to Lead by Brene
Mm,
Brown.
yes.
And
Mhm.
I actually went through that book as a book study with a director before moving into principalship, and it really just helps you figure out who you are and making sure that you're understanding those blind spots, but you're still finding the joy in what you're doing. I mean, I don't know, anything from Brene Brown is wonderful, so I would
Yeah.
just say that's good. I could pick many, but yeah, I guess I'll go with that one.
We
She's really
might have to get you to do a list, and then I can put it in the description. Like these are all of Danielle's must reads
yeah.
for you all. All right, so next question is top or who would be your five? This is dead or alive. At your table. So you have a dinner, you can pick five people, come sit with
Mhm.
you and just spend time with them.
Oh gosh. Whew. Um, let's see. I would like my mother for sure.
Mhm.
She's amazing. Love her to pieces, but she is no longer with me, so I definitely would like her at the table. I would say, oh man, this is tough.
Good
Um,
question.
it
Good
is a good
question.
question, which is making you think about it. A woman leader that has been very impactful to me just by quotes and just I would say Maya Angelou.
Mm,
She
good
she
one.
is so powerful and just the way she says things and just with the conviction that it comes. I would love to just sit down and learn from her at the table. I mean there's plenty of family I would invite that's no longer here, but
You got
gosh.
two, so you got three more. You
I
got three.
know. Um But then you don't want to offend anybody by not you pick grandma, but you don't pick grandpa. So
Right. Understood.
oh gosh.
But if you have to pick between the two, you have to pick grandma. You can't
Yeah,
pick
I
grandma.
know. I
You,
would
you have to
probably
pick
say
grandma.
both grandmas, honestly.
Okay.
Um, both of my grandmothers, they're just amazing women, fearless leaders, and I look up to them so much. Look,
Okay.
it's like a table of women.
Nothing wrong with that.
And the girl power. And who else would I want at the table? My daughter, because
That's a good table.
I would want her to learn and meet all of them and just love. I don't know, there's so much that she could learn and love from all of them, so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good table.
I
That
mean,
might be
I think it would be a great table too, just saying.
that might be the best table that I've heard so far. It's like, and I've noticed too. I don't know if this is an educator saying, but I've noticed in the different people that I've asked so far, they tend to pick family. Like
Hmm.
that they bring family members in, and each, maybe most of the ones I've heard, they will bring somebody in to be at the table so that they can hear the rest of the people,
Yes.
like you just did for your daughter. It's like I still want to educate, like I'm still educating somebody
It's
here
in
at
our
this
blood.
table.
What can we
Right.
say?
That's what we do. So the last
Yes.
last one will
Okay.
be, let me make sure I got it. So who would you want to see on the podcast? But it has to be somebody that you could help us get if we could get them
Oh.
on there. So who would you like to see on the podcast or hear?
Oh man. Who would I like to see on a podcast? Let's see. Um, I have to think about that one. That's another
Yep.
good one.
Take your time.
Um, I would say I would want, hmm, wow, there's so many good people. Um, I would say like um to learn more about like out of the box thinking and innovative, very innovative would be the former principal I worked under, who's already diving
Okay.
into next education. I think he has a lot to share and has been in it for a while. Kevin Schatz is his name.
Kevin
He
Shots.
he's very innovative, and I learned a lot from him when I was working with him. But I think he would be able to shine a light on just innovation within the job. He's just so out of the box that it
Okay.
I just get surprised every time we have a conversation of just, hey, what did you think about this, or how did you implement that? And it I don't know. I think he's just very smart and very good. I don't know, learn a lot from him for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, then I may be reaching out to you to see if, like, hey, you
Okay.
got his contact. See if we can get
Yeah.
him in because I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, look, everybody. Again, this is another episode of Hot Conversations with School Leaders. As always, I think this was an incredible episode. I think it's going to give you a lot of gems, a lot of things to give you encouragement as you go through your leadership journey. Miss Sims, as always, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
available. Make sure anywhere you subscribe, make sure you follow all the things. I'm getting used to having to say that on a regular basis on stuff. Never had to do that before. But keep on going. We got way more things coming your way. Love you. Keep leading. We'll talk to you all soon.